Greetings and welcome back to Christian News and Views. This is episode 116. And today is Tuesday, and we're looking at the Tuesday. Actually, what we're going to be looking at, basically some headlines. What I did is I went through and started looking at all the different headlines that I could. I wanted to get a general overall view of what's going on in the tariff wars. And so this is to give you an idea of how things are going, the overall view, and then of course I'll give you my comments. So to lead off, Israel's Netanyahu was the first foreign leader to discuss tariffs with Trump. He flew all the way over, and yesterday he met with Trump, and they did have a news conference, a joint news conference, and they came. I didn't find the results that I wanted to, so I'm not going to report on that yet. Probably might be until tomorrow. But all indications is that Netanyahu was he's our chief ally over there, and both parties, Israel and the United States, have reasons for wanting to have a meet in the middle somewhere. So I don't know what they agreed upon, but I'm sure there's been some agreements, and it'll be interesting to find out what they are. But anyhow, Netanyahu was the very first foreign leader. Now, I emphasize that because I'll mention it again later. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says everything is on the table. So when somebody that high up says everything, I tend to think it means everything. So we have to wait and see what all that involves. But the thing is this. We're sending out a message to people. You got to play by our rules. We are no longer going to be the lame duck. We're not going to be the patsy. We're not going to just roll over and let you just pick our pockets, which is what's been going on for decades. And so we're showing some strength. We saw this play out a little bit in Trump's first administration. But now he's stepped out of the game even more, and I think you're going to see some great results as a result of this. Here's another one. The United States and India are discussing tariffs. India is one of our, I believe they're one of our chief trade partners over there in Asia. They're probably, I think it's second to China. They're becoming an alternative to China. And so that is something that we want to watch real closely and see how those discussions go. Here's another one. Trump threatens to raise tariffs another 50% above the new tariffs already levied on China goods. So that's another one that we need to look at and consider. And I'm going to do that in the opinion. The final one I'm looking at is Europe gears up to negotiate. And there was one of the officials from the European Union saying that they're looking at a zero, I think they call it the 0-0 game or whatever. So we'll see how that all works out. We've been listening to a lot of speculation, panic, if you will. Democrats have been highly critical and predicting worst case scenarios. Well, that's not quite how it's playing out. Actually, this is playing out somewhat like I've suspected and I've indicated in previous episodes. I keep saying this. Trump is a master dealer. Now, a lot of people don't agree with that. They think that he's faking it, that he wasn't as successful as he claims. But I think his record speaks for itself. But Trump threatens, and here's what he did in the tariff war. He threatened tariffs on these countries because they already had tariffs on us. So we tend to forget that little deal. Canada already had tariffs levied on American goods that far outstripped anything we had. He just said, "Okay, we're going to level the playing field," and he leveled the tariffs on them. Same thing with Mexico. Same thing with England and the European Union. The same thing with country after country after country. What he did is he simply said, if you're not going to change your ways, I'm going to make you change your ways. I'm going to levy some taxes, tariffs on you." And he has done that. And guess what's happening? They are now either getting ready to negotiate, already negotiating, or on their way to the negotiating table. And this is something that has to be understood. We got to give Trump the room to do this negotiating, to bring this all to pass. And you're starting to see it now. And Israel being the first one, I think they're going to benefit from that. So I say again, Trump and only Trump knows what he is doing. And then you get into card games and other kind of games, they end up saying advantage. And then they'll tell you what the advantage, who has the advantage, okay? Advantage, Trump. Or you could say advantage, America. As one of the Trump family members said, the first to meet with Trump will get the best deal. The last to meet with Trump will get the worst deal. So Israel is the first one to meet with Trump. And so might want to, not just myself, but others will be looking very closely at whatever deal has come forth. And some of it will be highlighted in their joint conference that came out. But I think we're going to have to take some time and look at it, because other countries are going to use that as their, well, if you were talking about the NFL draft, or you're talking about professional teams signing rookies to contracts, that first contract is sort of the standard. All the other contracts are negotiated back, sort of in a pecking order. Well, you're going to see the same thing, I believe, in this. You got the first, which is Israel, coming in to negotiate with Trump. All the others are going to base theirs on what Israel did and what Israel got. And that is why it will be necessary for all the other countries to really study this and find out where they fit in that pecking order, for one thing. So when all this tariff stuff fades away, that stock market, which is going up and down and very, very been boiling, if you want to say, it's been on fire. The stock market, I believe, will settle down, at least in the long term. There are a lot of things that happen in the stock market that will affect it from day to day, and you'll see it go up and down a little bit. And those are issues that if you're an investor, if you're in it for the long term, you don't really pay attention to those little spikes in here and there. You watch for trends. You watch to see what the future is going to be. When I was in the stock market decades ago, it was mostly human beings. Now it's the computers. But even there, you still have human beings inputting stuff into those computers and then responding to what the computers are telling them. So what's going on, I think that the stock market has been very radical in its viewing of the tariffs. They've been panicking. Excuse me, my voice is kind of rough. They've been, that's much better. They've been panicking as a result of all the bad publicity. Stock market people tend to, they listen to the wrong voices. They listen to, if there's any kind of negative news out there, it seems to cause a panic. computers are so fast and so sensitive to their human masters. And sometimes those human masters are actually human slaves to the computers. But they're so sensitive and so fast in reacting that it can send the stock market into a deep dive or a steep climb temporarily. The longer the picture is that you get to look at, the more stable it gets. And so, as the truth of this tariff war starts to reveal itself, I think the stock market's going to settle down. And they're going to look at it and see the long term. They still might be a little jittery about the short term, but the long term is going to start looking better and better and better. And finally, it will just, now that talk about recession, political upheavals, economic upheavals, whatever kind of upheaval you want to think about, they're going to disappear or at least recede. And people are going to start looking at this in a very different light. Instead of criticizing, well, the Democrats will always find something about Trump to criticize. But logical people who are looking at things from, some of them from a personal point, some of them from a more educated point, but they'll be looking at it and they'll be changing their view, moderating their view to a more positive um, outtake of all of this. And I think that at the end there are going to be a lot of praises for Trump on how he's done things. Wouldn't be surprised about that at all. So that is something that we need to take into consideration. So what should I be advising you about? Well, I'm not going to advise you if you're a professional stock investor. You should know what I'm saying in the first place. If you don't and you're panicking, anything I say you're not going to listen to. When I was in the stock market, I used various resources to get my information. You actually had a shorter time, or no, excuse me, a longer time to review that information than you do today because of computers. And computers have taken over. They were starting to take it over when I got out. And that's one of the reasons I never got back in. It took a while before I could get back in financially, but by that time I was married and we had obligations elsewhere, and I just couldn't see getting back into it. It just was the things that I had learned, the things that I knew how to do were being shoved aside, and computers were making those decisions very rapidly. And my confidence level in being able to compete against those computers was not high at all. And I'm glad I stayed out of it. But the thing is, there's still some truth there that I believe that the stock market still looks long term, still evaluates things, and some of the resources I was using, they're still out there, so you still need them. And I think that they're looking at this, watching it, paying very close attention to it, and they're reacting. They're going to start reacting to it in a more moderate way, and the dust is going to settle. They're going to have a clearer vision, and when they get that clearer vision, they'll make wiser moves. But in the meantime, a lot of people have lost a ton of money. So if I'm not I'm not going to give stock advice here. But if it was me, I'd be waiting, because unless you lost a lot or in danger of losing a lot. And so I think that you need to keep your own eyes on it and glued to it. But don't just listen to the negative news. Listen to the positive too. Try to get a clearer picture of what's going on. So it has been a rather exciting, really is a weekend of decisions making. People, from Europe to Japan to Israel to all over the world, countries are taking stock and making decisions based on what Trump is saying. And they're making evaluations. Is he gambling? Is he bluffing? Well, if he is bluffing, do we call the bluff? Or how do we negotiate this? What can we bring to the table to sit down and talk with him? He has changed how people are thinking about a lot of things. And I think in the days ahead, we're going to see a lot of good PR, if you will, coming out of Washington, D.C. That the tariffs, I wouldn't be surprised that, for the most part, tariffs will be a non-factor. They'll disappear. Now, there might be some countries that don't negotiate, and they may have to eat those tariffs. But the smart countries will negotiate, and they will do what's best for them, just like Trump's going to do whatever is best for the United States. Well, and then negotiate like that, they're going to get down to a table where they can sit across from one another. I've said this many times. Look one another in the eye and come to decisions. There may be some daredevil stuff going on, but I think eventually they're going to sit down and say, okay, this is what we can do here. And Trump will say, well, okay, I'll take that. It's sort of like a card game. I think it's poker. Never played poker, so I could be totally wrong. I'll take that and raise it. Or I'll take that and lower it. They'll negotiate and bring it to a point where they can, okay, we have a deal. And once they get a deal here, they can get a deal here, they can get a deal here or over here. They can start broadening out and getting a bigger and better package. But first of all, they got to get that first area of agreement, and then that will lead to the others. And I just think that that's what's going to happen. Trump's not going to roll over. And some of these other guys are pretty smart too, and they're not going to roll over. It's the same thing as what we see with Trump and Zelensky of Ukraine. Again, you have two men. I think what's happened is that we have Trump, the author, dealing with Zelensky, who read his book. Because Zelensky was a comedian and other things. He was entertainment. He wasn't an investor. But when he got into the government, he really had to do a quick learning curve because the very survival of the nation was on the line. And I think he looked at Trump as I don't know if he's his hero or not, but he looked at Trump as somebody that worthy of copying. And so then that's why sometimes they clash, because there's just so much alike. But I just think that that's going to work out as well. Again, I don't know about tariffs, but in other areas, economic areas and military areas, they're going to come to some agreements. And I still believe that. I haven't seen anything out there that would tell me otherwise. And so I say to you out there, fasten your seatbelts, hold on. This might be a little bit of a rough ride at times, but I believe that Trump is going to be the winner, and the United States will become, as he likes to say, great again. Now, I have to always put a little thing on the end of that. America will never truly be great again until it turns back to the United States, to Christianity, turns back to God, turns back to Jesus Christ. When we have a revival, a nationwide revival in Christianity, people once again turning to the Word of God and putting their trust in the living Word of God, Jesus Christ. When they do that, then we will be a great country again. What can Trump do about that? He can get government out of the way. I'd prefer it if he got the faith office out of the way. Just forgot that. But that's already there. And he got the wrong person in charge of it. But And so that's gonna be very difficult for him to keep the government out of the way. But he did it the first time around without that faith office. So hopefully he will keep the government out of the way and not try to tell the Christianity, tell the church how to run its house. They are obligated to do it God's way. And God has given us the Word of God to tell us how to run it. Then we'll have America being great again. But politically and economically, Trump can do a great deal to make America great again. Well, that's it for today. I do want to, once again, uh, and indicate to you that if you like this channel and you haven't subscribed yet, right down below here is the icon there, that little small picture. Just click on it and you'll be able to subscribe to my channel, TR Independent Books. You'll get Christian news and views, which you're watching right now. You'll also get becoming a published author is fun. And even if you don't want to, not interested in writing, it might just be interesting for you to follow. But it's there to give advice, free advice, to anybody who wants to become a published author. And if you subscribe to my channel, I am then encouraged, and I promise you that I'll do all my power to create episodes that will inform you, encourage you, and inspire you. That's my promise to you. And so I just want you to know that you can do that. And I'm not my promise. I've kept my promise, and I intend to keep it. You have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.